I heard about your band like 10 days ago, and that's because I saw that cover art and I was like fucking intrigued. And oh, that cover art needs to sound great. So I I just pushed play and I loved it. And a couple of days later, just shared it on Instagram, and Michal hit me back. And yes, almost a week later, here we are, the whole band as a trio on my channel. That's cool.
Yeah, we're so happy to be here. Actually, yeah,
Yeah.
That was a fast one.
yeah.
We took the highway. So maybe guys, let you introduce yourself, what you are doing in the band. I know, but people who are watching us who doesn't know about Species need to know all of you.
All right, so maybe I'm gonna start. Hi there, I'm Peter. I'm the singer and the bassist.
So I'm Michal and I play the guitars. Well,
And hi,
one guitar
everyone.
actually.
I am. So, hi, everyone. It's great to be here. My name's Przemek. I play the drums.
That was obvious. So, one thing that I hear a lot of different layers of guitars in your playing, and I was just asking myself today, are they playing as a trio live, or is there like a higher gun who's playing a second guitar, or let me know.
Well, we are playing as a trio, and I still actually think that when you listen to the record, obviously there are multiple layers of the guitars. Usually, it's actually only two guitars. You know, you have the left and right guitar, and then occasionally you would have some additional leads here and there. But it's mostly two guitars playing. And to be honest, for most of the time, the guitars are playing, you know, fairly similar thing. The function of the second guitar that's on the album, it's rather to like harmonize or maybe just add some slight touches rather than, you know, completely transform the riff like you would have in some other bands, you know, like Necrophagus would do, or Obscura, you know, or those kinds of bands where two guitars are playing completely different things. So here it's relatively similar. So we play as a trio live, and what I would usually do live is I have, you know, I have my parts in my head, both of the guitars, and I tend to, in
Play the best.
some parts, I tend to like mix them, you know, like for example, if there's a riff that gets played, you know, 4 times, I would play it twice the first guitar and then twice the second guitar, for example, right? Something like that. Or I would do like a mix of that, you know. So I don't really think that there's too much going on these guitars, so much that it gets lost. It's kind of like Coroner would do, you know. They have a fairly similar attitude, I think, towards that.
They also play as a trio, if I recall it right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What you would find in Coroner is actually they sometimes have like, you know, a second like guitar playing underneath a solo, and this is one thing that we are actually trying to avoid. Yeah, like there's maybe I can boost up the bass, you know, maybe add some like overdrive here and there, but it's mostly just like bass underneath a guitar solo, you know. So there's like I find it I find it very liberating that, you know, there's like enough space for everybody to shine, you know. And I think like, you know, another guitar on top of this would actually make it just a little bit harder, you know. So I think for me, but also for the boys as well, I think this is the perfect combo for this band, you know, to just have like one guitar, and like during the live shows it's absolutely enough. Yeah, it gets the job done.
I'm sure it works because, as you said, Michal, see, Mial or Michal?
Oh, I mean, whatever works for you. I mean,
The
Michal,
pronunciation.
everyone everyone at my job calls me Michal, because I tend to work with a lot of people from like Western Europe, and they always call me Michal. So I'm used to that. But it's actually Michał. So
Mihao.
yeah.
Wow. I
Right.
was not even close, but thanks for the knowledge. And you're living in the city of Warsaw. Is that almost correct? The pronunciation?
I mean, that's
Warsaw?
the English name for it. Yeah, Warsaw. Yeah, you can call it like that. In Poland, we call it Warszawa.
Oh,
So
like
yeah.
that. That's interesting because I'm from the French part of Canada,
Oh,
and we pronounce it Varsovie in French.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
the
it's
French way.
closer to the real deal.
Yeah. Actually, yes, it
Exactly.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, yeah, to come back to your live performance. So underneath the guitar solo, you will beef up a little bit your bass
Yeah.
with more distortion. So it's like almost a bridge between a guitar and a bass.
Kind of, but only if the song calls for it. I think I did it more on the first album, and here maybe only 2 songs have this.
Okay.
But I cannot like just like put it straight off my like from the top of my head, because like I will have to like play the songs through my head, from start to finish to actually remember about this. Yeah, but I think like there's only maybe 2 songs where I actually use distortion underneath a guitar solo, because like I thought that it just wouldn't work with the structure of the song. Um, there was one song where like throughout half of the solo I just like go with like slap bass, yeah, and then we move into like a second part, where solo continues, but the song changes completely, and then I go hit distortion. We try to
Okay,
use it
yeah.
only when it makes sense, yeah. So it musically has something to introduce to the song, as opposed to, okay, so there's guitar solo, so there must be like distortion on the bass, yeah. Like, not doing it for the heck of it, but trying to think it through.
Totally get it, and I think the bass playing is doing a lot of things in Species. It's not just the guitar. And when you said that there's a time for everyone to shine, I hear a lot of great bass running, and sometimes in metal, the bass can be like out of this world or just doing almost nothing, like
Yeah.
a note and just going fast. And I really think it's interesting to hear the bass playing in the band, and it's like all coordinate with the guitar playing as well. So there's really no need to have two really distinctive guitar part when you have a bass that is taking a place as important as that. So you get a full sound anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm happy that that it's noticeable, and having such a great guitar player like me, how I really believe that one guitar is absolutely enough, and all of us are
Mhm.
doing like, I think, a really interesting job. And I know I've said it 100 times already, but I'm like very very happy to have a chance to play with such amazing musicians. And both Przemek and me, how they have like so much input into like the like all the songs that you just look at them. It's just like a huge mixture of like different personalities and different ideas. And I think the fun part is to try to like, those guys are super talented, and we try to like, right, how to we try to figure out how to connect this so it actually turns into a song. It's a mixture of a lot of different ideas, a lot of different inspirations and everything, and still to make it sound like a song, to give everybody a lot of space. So it's no it kind of sometimes feel more like you're trying to mold something, instead of like
Mhm.
a songwriting process. It's just like, imagine a song like a biological organism, and it's mutating. That's how I see this. So it's mutating. you know I would say the catalyst is all of us, and that's why there's a lot of space for each member to shine.
Yeah, and also it's about having fun. So like while Mike is playing a solo, me and Peter, we always try to come up on a part like bass and drum part that we really would like to play while Mike is doing a solo. So
Yeah,
it
and
fits the
not a
song, and we're happy
redundant part.
playing it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something that I noticed that there was something new also underneath the solo. It's not just we will repeat the verse and then Meow will play a solo on top of that.
yeah, I mean, the guys would very often they would spend more time on, coming up with the right, let's say, I mean, I don't want to call it that way, but the backing track that's in the back of the
Yeah,
solo, right? They would
the
spend more
backbone,
time
the
to
backbone.
focus on that, what's going on in the back actually, than the solo. So, if like probably if you're if you're a guitar player, you would listen to the solo, like, and hear of course the guitar, right? But then give it another listen, and listen to what's going on in the background. And I think that
Mm.
this is, very also during the live performances, like I'm standing there and playing a solo, but these guys are just having fun and doing some crazy stuff. And actually, it's yeah, it's that's why it's so great to play as a trio, because we would do the same. I would do the same with Przemek when Piotr is playing a solo, right? I mean, he does bass solos as well, and then we are doing
Yep.
the backing track, the backing track, and I'm also trying to come up with some, to change it a little bit on the guitar, right? Depending on where we are at with the solo, to in which section. So yeah, there's a lot
I
going on in these parts as well.
totally. I hear a lot of little twists. Also, you don't like to come back with exactly the same idea. I think very often you will twist a little bit the riff or the bass part or the drumming. You will be evolving during the song. That I
Yeah,
like a lot because when you listen to uh, that's the progressive element that you have in the sound of
exactly.
the band, I think, and that's why I know that few years ahead I will still very likely go back to that record because there's more to discover once you get really into it. And when I was listening to it on my speaker versus on my headphones, then I discovered a lot of things that were going on, and I went, okay, it's more sophisticated than I thought at first.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
happy that you notice. We try to put in a lot of nuances. Over there. We like to implement a lot of Easter eggs. But again, only when it makes like sense musically, but also just like Przemek mentioned, yeah, it needs to be fun for us. So yeah, give it a couple of listens and maybe you will find something new each time. But yeah, like for us, it's great fun. It's great fun and also like a very interesting creative process. Yeah, to try to figure out how to complement all those like different parts and yeah, and then again, just like Michal said about playing solos on top of it, like an interesting background as you mentioned. Yeah, there's always something going on, you know, in front, at the back, in between. There's even a part where there's like a bass solo. Michal is going with chords, and on top of this, Przemek is playing, like a drum solo. And actually, he has a lot of moments that feels like a tiny drum solo in a lot of places, with his drum fills and everything. So yeah, that's how I see this.
and well, I haven't realized that for a long time until like many people like told me about it, that like sometimes it just takes only couple of drum patterns or drum rhythms to put on a one given guitar riff for the music to sound a bit more interesting. And I really didn't like realize that I'm doing that sometimes, that like you've got riff A and I put like three or four different drum patterns throughout the whole song, or like one after another. And also we sometimes also change the picking on a guitar depending on the the subdivisions, right? Or no, the like whether or not you're doing like 16 notes or triplets, for example. on a given riff. So again, as we mentioned, it's about us having fun while composing it and then playing music. So it's whenever what makes us happy and whatever we like to play on our instruments, and we combine it all together.
Yeah, I read in
Yeah.
one interview actually. No, I think it was a review. Some guy mentioned that I can't remember what exactly that was, but it was a positive review. But he said that Przemek is trying to play every beat ever on this record, actually, which I think is pretty
Yeah,
accurate given
that was bittersweet.
given that that part that he mentioned. I think it's in Born of Stitch and Flesh that the guys, Piotr is playing a bass solo and Przemek is pretty much playing a drum solo on that, and then I'm playing a solo and these guys are just playing a like a beat under that, which is every single it just changes constantly, right? So yeah, it can get pretty crazy, but
Yeah, but I believe that it's still it stays
It
musical.
breathes a lot anyway.
Yeah, but here's the thing: we don't try to go too far, because there is like a very thin line. You're balancing on knife's edge. Yeah, is it still music or is it like cacophony? Yeah, is it still like very like ambitious progressive music, or is it just a big huge mess and noise and everything? So I think this is another layer on top of everything that also brings us a lot of fun, like making it do a song. Yeah, like have as much freedom as you want, but try to keep it a song. And yeah, like I think it all comes down to having fun. Yeah, but there's like a lot of different elements that make it even more fun. Yeah, and giving yourself a set of boundaries. Yeah, so try to keep it musical. Yeah, try to keep it
Mhm.
old school in a way, because this is also something that we are trying to do. We are trying to stay true to to the stuff that always felt like the greatest for us in music, throughout history, from 1970s, 80s, 90s. We have always aimed into that kind of sound, trying to achieve that, but also to have like our own rendition of this. So this, giving ourselves those boundaries can, like, I know it sounds like it's contradictory, but it gives us like more freedom, as opposed to having like unlimited stuff, just like we'll do whatever we want. But I believe that in the end it will just like turn out into a huge bit like absolute mess. So all those things come down to like us having fun, but staying within certain limits, and inside those limits exploring as many potential ways to make music as it's possible, right?
I think it's just about not showing off to show off, just
Mm-hmm.
over shredding.
Yeah.
So some bands are there for that. If you talk about Dragon Force and you say them, you don't do more than 20 seconds solo, they will be like, "What's the purpose of our band?"
And we
But
are not capable of doing that, so no worries.
Yeah,
Don't
I
worry.
wouldn't be able to play such stuff. So I mean, it's like kudos to all the bands that can do that. It's
oh yeah,
that's absolute insanity what these guys are able to do, and I would love to be able to do that. But at the same time, I don't. I mean, in terms of like playing, maybe Dragon Force are not like crazy progressive in terms of, let's say, that the song
no,
structures or whatever. But in short, we like songs, right? We like crazy stuff, but we like songs, simple songs as well. So that's why
yeah.
some of these songs are relatively simple songs. It's just that they evolve in their structures, and I think that's the core reason why they are progressive, because you have an idea that evolves
Yeah,
within a
it's quite
song.
at the foundation can be quite simple, but all the ingredients put together, there's a lot going on
Mm-hmm.
without compromising the DNA of the song. Every instrument is serving the song, even when it's going off a little bit.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
the balance, there's a great balance, and wow,
Yeah.
songs are
we
great.
we are all great fans of what happened with prog rock, in the 1980s. Because if you listen closely, they I think this is the time where they mastered, making songs that were like even radio friendly, but if you look deeper, there were like layers on top of layers, of complexity, of like all those things that made, a certain song or a certain album great. If you listen closely, there's a lot of mechanics, and if you analyze the structure of the song, they're masterpieces, just like evolving into like this like long big story. Everything makes sense, but it's not like you cannot feel it the first time you hear it, but with each playthrough, you get more and more of those details, so I think this is also a big inspiration for all of us, to look into this, from like try to make music also from this perspective. Yeah.
Sounds great to me. And I sent your album to Christian Mjonsner.
Oh, cool. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow.
And
I heard you got to talk to him. So.
yeah, I was supposed this weekend, but it didn't align as we expected. But it's we'll do it in the future, real near future.
Oh.
Yes, and I sent him your album, and he told me, "Yeah, Stefan, these guys really need to find something else to do with their lives. It's it doesn't cut it. They really need to find another passion." No, I'm kidding.
To take us away from like absolutely just destroying the instruments. Yeah, we have a lot of other things to do, unfortunately, but yeah, I get his point. I get his point.
No, I was saying.
There was
have a laugh.
There was one funny thing. Sorry for interrupting you like this, but I'm gonna forget if I don't tell you this. After a lot of concerts, sometimes like people approach me and like tell me, yeah, it was a great concert, but they go like, yeah, but I'm gonna kill your guitarist, or like, yeah, or tell Przemek to stop playing the drums because I hate how perfect he is, and so I get that kind of jokes, and it's always. It's always, I think that's the best way to compliment us, because we all love sarcasm. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that was my sarcasm, but in fact, he said, "I really like that. The songwriting is really good, man. Where did you discover that?" And he was really interested in your band, and I didn't know he will like it because I've been in contact with him for a few years now, and we have interest in music that are really alike. So when I'm found for a band, usually he talks about it later or vice versa. So but yeah, he really liked it. So that's a cool thing for you guys.
Yeah, his playing on, most importantly, I think on Epitaph is just like very, very influential for me. There's quite a few patterns on this album that are highly inspired by his playing. So
yeah, and I was talking about Dragon Force, but it's been Eternity's End. They are blowing up so much steam.
I need to check it out. I know you sent it to me, but I still haven't listened to it. I will,
It's a neoclassical shred fest, but the songs are really good. The songs are really good too. And it's not boring. The last album, Embers of War, to me is a fucking masterpiece of neoclassical speed power metal, and yes, really liked it. And this year he released 2 other albums, one with ex Spawn of Possession, Jonas Bristling, Retromorphosis. That album, just a killer. And also I shared with you, I think, Eschaton, his other band.
Yeah, I know. I need to listen to that one as well. Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, he's got a couple projects right now, and
Voice Sector Zero.
Always recording some crazy stuff. Whatever band he does or joins or whatever, it's just always ridiculous.
Mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Well, the guy, I think he likes music in general. So he has a lot of different influences. He's not like stick into one metal genre. He just plays what he likes, and he doesn't like to necessarily repeat himself that much. So he finds other ways. But going back to, we're talking about important albums that shaped the sound of the band. What will be the most important album? Maybe say a few, each one of you, albums that you were very influential for the sound that the band has right now.
All right, so let me start because I've been thinking about it for some time now, and Michal not so long ago had a chance to also like share his, but maybe he'll have a chance to like maybe add on something on top of this. But I was trying to think of narrowing it all down to just four. It would be, if I had to be honest, it would be 20 or even more. But if I were to pick four, I would start with "Raining Blood" by Slayer, because when I was 10, I heard "Raining Blood." My world completely changed. I felt like, man, you can do this, right? You can do that. That would be like, so it opened my mind, to like, that was the start of my path down the, I would say like extreme metal. Yeah, Slayer is not considered like anything close to extreme, but at that time, it was like the heavy stuff. Yeah. So definitely that got me introduced into like thrash metal proper. And then further down the road, I would have to like pick between "Think This" by Toxic, or maybe "Extravasation"
Oh
by
my
Acid.
god,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I
I love that
think,
album. I like
yeah,
World Circus a little bit better, but both of them are
yeah.
really,
So I
yeah.
think this was the album that actually got me into progressive, technical thrash metal. It blew my mind, and to this day, I would still consider this like my top one album of all time. You know,
Oh shit.
there are things that like battling this position, but I would definitely describe this one as like, I think it's the one most influential album in my life. And then I would think it. Escaping metal a little bit, I would have to pick like, it would be any of the first four albums by Primus actually, because it sent me down the path of just
Hmm.
like playing bass as a completely different instrument to what I had known before. So would be like Frizzle Fry or whatever. Baking pork soda, not baking pork soda or whatever. I think I think pork soda, if I had to narrow down one, I think that would be the one, like my all-time favorite and like most influential. And then the last one, I would have to say "Red" by King Crimson.
Oh
I
my
love,
god.
but
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
There was a time when I finally, understood that, oh yeah, "Starless" is the best song ever, and and I have this, I keep this opinion to this day. Yeah, well, yeah, like there's a lot of other things. I'm a huge fan of Budgie. And
Oh, Budgie.
yeah, for the longest time, one of my all-time favorite songs was "Napoleon Bona" Part 1 and 2, right? And I will still say this is the best rock and roll song of all time. Yeah, best progressive song would be like "Starless," yeah, and this would be the best rock and roll song of all time. And I would keep going, but yeah, I would like try to stick on to these. So yeah, that's it for me.
That's a great collection of albums. And I like the fact that you didn't mention "On the Court of King Crimson," because
Hmm.
every time you hear about King Crimson is the first 1968,
Yeah.
69 album, and "Red" is on par or even better. I think it personally is probably better.
Yeah, and there's like stuff that I think it's 1973, which is like Lark Talks in Aspic, Lark Songs
Yeah,
in Aspic, yeah.
73
And
is like song.
yeah, and I would say that this is it has like the first ever technical thrash metal riff ever written, There's like like it was, so it was way ahead of its time. Like King Crimson did it a couple of times in music history, that they just like, were like before everybody else, like by 10 or 15 years. They did this in in the 70s, and they did it again in the 80s.
With
Because
discipline.
yeah, exactly. Because bands started to
Tony
sort of,
11. I
yeah,
guess
yeah,
you like that
exactly.
guy.
Yeah, I love the guy,
Me too.
and like, yeah, like, but I read a funny comment the other day because someone said like, yeah, I want my money back because Tony 11 never smiled on the concert, so that was a funny thing, yeah. But I was just like, if you have like extra 3 hours, then you can talk about King Crimson, but
Yeah, we could do a separate video probably
yeah,
about that.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
1 hour long.
yeah,
Okay, let's
about Mel
hear from
Collins, yeah,
the others.
yeah.
Przemek?
Yeah. So, well, like these kind of questions are always like, yeah, man, like you have like 3 hours
Yeah.
of time, but when it comes to like me, I can speak for drums. In terms of drummers that I really admire, or I have admired since I started playing drums, so like 15 years already. And whenever whichever band has a unique drummer with a unique sound and unique approach towards composing the drum parts, the look of a drummer live, the character, I'm bought, and I can listen to the bands. And like just to mention a few, like I always thought that mm, like Black Album by Metallica has one of the greatest drum sounds like ever, like really.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Like these drums are huge, very well thought. Of course, like the musically the structure is a bit more simple than in Species, but I really always loved Lars Ulrich for his basically approach towards drumming, his look, and like of course back in the day, not maybe now, but like the first 5 albums, it's really very interesting drumming and interesting approach. Like sometimes he's doing like very simple drum rolls like on a snare, and that's it, and you don't have to like really show off more. You have to come up on a the pattern that fits the certain part of a song in a given time. So yeah, so I would go with Black Album. I'd go with Rust in Peace and Nick Menza and his drumming. That's like on one hand is simple, but on the other one is on the other hand is really difficult, and you have to really listen closely, to catch everything that he's playing. And apart from that, he didn't use a click track in Rust in Peace. I mean, maybe he did, but I can tell you that he didn't, because every time I try to play these songs, the tempo changes a bit. What makes this music live? Same goes with, of
Yeah,
course,
more
Slayer
lively.
and the Seasons in the Abyss or South of Heaven are my favorite ones when it comes to drum sounds. Again, it's big, open, and you can hear everything, and it's not artificial. It's like straight from the arm. Um, of course, like Mike Portnoy. I even today at work, I had a conversation with my friend who is a drummer as well, and he said that what he loves about Portnoy is that he can play like weird subdivisions in a very catchy way. So you've got some, I don't know, like 7/4 or whatever, and it sounds catchy. And again, his drumming and his drum sound always really sounded great to me. Vinnie Paul, Pantera,
Oh
and
my God, yeah.
Cowboys from Hell, like every album really, like the
The drum
approach.
sound.
Yeah. And of course, like my all-time, like I remember I first heard the when the levee breaks, the Led Zeppelin cover,
Mhm.
and the drum sound there by John Bonham, like this is the drummer's drummer, like Neil Peart, of course, but you know Neil Peart obviously was inspired by John Bonham and Neil Peart, of course. So my my answer to that is that mm, whichever drummer is great and unique and very um, you know the drummer that brought at a given moment of time, a drummer that brought something new to the genre, to the music, to the look, to the approach. He was like a separate thing in a band. That you got the bands that you can say that you like the bassist, you like the guitar player, you like the vocalist and the drummer. So these kind of bands that recorded, there are so many great albums by these kind of bands. But again, like we don't have time to talk about all of it. But just to sum up, I when we were recording Changelings, I told Philip, the sound engineer and the producer, to make these drums as natural and as big and as open as it's possible. Of course, in compared to the riffs and the compositions, and mm, that's what kind of drum sound I like, and what kind of drum approach I like from these drummers that I mentioned.
Yeah, but I think the collection of drummer you just name resume uh, quite well the sound of the band on drums, because the sound is really organic on Changelings, on every instrument. I really like that. It's I will not say raw, because the production is really good. You hear crystal clear everything that is being played. Uh, but that at the same time, there's this nasty side of it, raw a little bit. And all the drummers that you name are all drummers that are like good live. They are like characters when they are playing between the kit. You talk about Bonham, Mike Portnoy, Lars Ulrich. Like it or not, Lars Ulrich is really great to just bring the crowd
Yeah.
on their toes, and screaming and everything. And yeah, I see what you're looking. Vinipol was like that. And what's best than the sound of Vinipol, like on Vulgar Display of Power?
Oh, yeah.
And you talked about Mike Portnoy, like Scenes from a Memory.
Or Train of Thoughts, that's the my
Train
favorite
of
album,
Thoughts too. Yeah.
really.
So yeah.
And just to finish, all these drummers that I mentioned, I mentioned them because these are the drummers that were really close to like my ears, my heart, when I was starting playing the drums, and they were very influential to me. And of course, like so many other great drummers came later and still are coming. Not to mention even like my friends, like from our even from Warsaw, some other drummers, fellow drummers. But I mentioned
Mugwa,
these drummers because really they were very influential
Dark
to me,
Side.
and they are still like inside me. Like when I go and sit behind the drum kit, I'm influenced by the drummer that I got to know yesterday. But man, like I want to be like John Bonham.
Nice. Meow, that's your turn.
All right. So yeah, I mean, like Piotr said, I recently did that video and I was talking about some of the albums.
Talk
So
about other ones, because
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I
I
can.
watched that thing.
Cool. Yeah, I mean,
It was really interesting.
if I had to pick like one record that just totally, changed my whole point of view when it comes to what you can do with, with heavy music, I would say that would probably be Cynic's Focus.
Mhm.
I mean, it's an obvious choice. Everyone who knows me knows that I would pick this record because it's like my favorite record of all time. But that's because when I kind of rediscovered this album, because I initially heard it for the first time when I was like 12 or 13 maybe. And I liked a couple songs, but I thought it was a little bit too weird for me. But then I came back to it and it just completely transformed my way of thinking, what you can actually do, that you can have, these crazy bass solos, crazy guitar fusion solos, alien vocoder vocals, the lyrics. It's a death metal record, but the lyrics are like, Indian philosophical, just yeah. And the cover art by Robert Venosa, again, something that's very, very like it's stuck in my, it got stuck in my head, and that's always been like something that I had in the back when I kind of envisioned, the images for that we would have for the Species albums as well. And I think that these kind of angelic visions that you have on the two cover arts for our records are also at some point, there is some, I can feel some connection to like, the work of people like Robert, or for example, Roger Dean, who did the Yes cover arts. But as for guitarists, like, aside from, yeah, Paul Masvidal, who's the main man behind Cynic, I would say. Yeah, I mean, Tommy from Coroner, he's always been a huge influence on me. His soloing, especially on like the later records, I think that on Mental Vortex and on Grin, the solos, the leads, that he does there. I've always been very inspired by like lead guitarists. I would say I wouldn't care that much about riffs as I did about solos. Even in my like early days of getting into rock and metal music, when I first heard like Iron Maiden, I didn't really care that much about like the riffs there, or even these melodies that they do all the time. It was mostly about the solos. And Dave Murray, actually, I think Dave Murray is my favorite of the three lead
Oh yeah.
guitarists. Yeah.
Usually it's Adrian Smith, but yeah,
In my case,
Murray is good
Dave,
too.
I absolutely love his sound, and just this. I mean, he might not be like the most original, when you hear his solos, especially when he does them live, because I think he mostly just improvises, and he has this very like typical style, but it's his style, and you just hear it, and you hear the sound, and you know that it's him always. And I think that's what makes a great guitarist, just like with the drummer or bassist, it's the same, or vocalist. So they've been a huge inspiration for me as well. And obviously Death has
Check.
that was the first band that got me into like extreme metal. Actually, prior to hearing the first song by Death that I ever heard was Leprosy, and when I heard it, I think I was like, yeah, I was probably 11 or something, and I thought that this is just stupid. Like, you can't hear the lyrics, you can't hear the riffs, it's just, it doesn't make sense. Like, what's the point? I mean, yeah, it's just idiotic. Why would you make music like that? And then a year later or something, I gave this band another chance, and I listened to The Sound of Perseverance, and I was like, is this even the same band? Like, what the hell? So,
Yeah,
and I
it
became
changed a little
absolutely
bit.
obsessed with that record, and then
It's
I
a big
became
step.
obsessed with the band. Yeah, I became obsessed with that record. I would just listen to it all the time. It was one of the first CDs that I got with my money, with some of the money that I had, from like birthdays or whatever. And I bought this CD that, they did that reissue from Relapse Records that had like a bunch of bonus tracks and different versions of these songs. And I would just become obsessed with this band. And yeah, and it had a huge influence. And I think that, when I was also, it had a big influence on my playing in a way that, I was learning to play a lot of songs, like just, trying to kind of mimic the playing of some of the guys in the band, all the great guitarists that have been in the band throughout the years, and the different lineups, and playing songs from the different years, from different albums. The songs on Human, for example, are totally different than the ones on The Sound of Perseverance, right? It would be just great lessons, and great experience to just learn a lot, in terms of like songwriting, playing. I mean, it's undeniable that you can hear that in the music, and I will not try to deny the impact of that band. So, as a
For
matter
sure.
of fact, sometimes I'm trying to escape, a certain chord progression, or certain, or when I'm writing a riff, I'm trying to escape, finishing in a way Chuck would do, so that it doesn't sound like a death riff. I'm like, sometimes we're jamming on a we're jamming on in our practice space, and I'm like playing a riff, and Przemek or Piotr would go like, man, this is too much. You have to change it, because we're not gonna get away with this. I'm like,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But
okay, okay,
yeah, you can see that I think you can talk to anybody, and at the end of the day, it comes down to death, you know. And it's funny because I didn't really get the appeal for many years until I did, like, maybe a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago was the final time when I actually started to appreciate the band Death, and you can probably also hear it like in the singing on the second album, that I'm like, swiveling
You're
like
chucked.
towards yeah, I got chucked, exactly, yeah. And yeah, so I think all of us can actually mention this whole band as inspirational, yeah. But also, um atheists, right? I don't know if you've heard of the band. Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah. So there you go. That was my intro into death metal, actually, and starting from Elements. So it was like a very unconventional approach to everything, yeah. But we all have to start somewhere, right? And then you get deeper and deeper, and there's like more and more and more. So just like we all said, yeah, you can like get a big shovel and just like keep digging, and there's gonna be more albums and more albums, and then more musicians, and it can turn into a very, very, very long story.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but I just wanted to mention, because we all mentioned old bands, bands from the from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, but there are so many great bands that have like emerged in the past 10, 15 years, maybe,
Yeah.
I think, in like 2016, I think that was when the debut album from Blood Incantation came out. I heard this record, when
It's
I
so
heard
funny.
that record, and I was like, what the hell is this? You got an opening track that's like 14 minutes long, and it just blew me away. And I was like, man, like that's like the greatest thing that I've, because up till then I was pretty much only listening to old bands, and then I found out about this band, and I'm like, what the hell is even that? And I'm like, okay, who released this? Dark Descent Records. Okay, so I go to the Dark Descent Records page, and I check out all these bands there, and that's kind of how I started following all the scene. And then all these other bands started coming up, these death metal bands like Tomb Mold, for example, who are
Oh, too much. Yeah.
on 20 Buck Spin. And that's how I discovered 20 Buck Spin, actually. And
Yeah,
these bands,
you're on the label.
they would also evolve
Michal's Wet Dream.
into like more progressive realms as well, within their like, take the debut record of Tomb Mold and their latest offering, The Enduring Spirit.
Great.
Crazy progressive technical death metal masterpiece. It's just amazing. So, and there are lots of great bands, on our local scene here as well. We have so many bands that we just connected and inspired by each other, because we come from different scenes. We have different inspirations as well, and it's just all kind of blend. It all blends together, when we get to play and exchange different different views and on playing, and approaches to practicing, or to just kind of songwriting and everything. You would hear a new album from your friends and listen to a track and be like, holy shit, how'd they come up with this? And then you talk to them like, yeah, I love this track, man. And it's awesome, because you get inspired by one another. The scene here is amazing.
We are blessed with such a very such alive and vibrant scene, and like, even this, I'm wearing a t-shirt of our friend's band Prenatron, and they released my favorite thrash metal album of 2024. It's unbelievable. But there's like so many bands that we could like just list, and all of them are amazing. We're good friends with a lot of them, and Yeah, it's impossible not to get inspired by this. Yeah, you already even sometimes can get inspired by just some random jingle you hear on the radio. But if it's catchy and you can use it somehow, you can also like get inspired by that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we like
Talking about that,
simplicity, like I said.
talking about Polish inspiration. Um, I love the clean parts that you are including in some of your songs. And I was listening and I was like, are they influenced by Maru Maru? Do
By
you know
what?
the Polish guy? He's really popular for taking like really popular song, but then he will say uh like beat it, but it was composed like or produced in
Oh,
1989 in Poland.
so he's
Oh,
a guy with
yeah, I
like
know
a.
the guy. Yeah.
Mhm.
He has
He's
a
like
style.
yeah, yeah,
A
yeah.
Oh,
style.
yeah, yeah.
I
He's
heard the
really
Is that
good
guy.
guitar
because of the
player.
mustache or something?
Yeah. The mustache.
He does this like vintage
Come
videos,
on.
like
Yeah,
in some
totally.
Yeah,
places.
I
Yeah,
did. Yeah, I didn't know the name of him, but now that you said
Maro Maro.
now that you said what he does, I know. Yeah, I've seen it a few times. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm influenced by that. Honestly, I wouldn't say so. I thought
I
you
was
were gonna
thinking
mention some obscure Polish technical death metal or something like Violent Dirge or whatever. That's a great
Wolf Spider.
Yeah,
yeah,
but
or yeah, Wolf Spider, Geisha Goner, all these like crazy technical bands from the 90s that released like one or two albums and just disappeared, you know. Maybe Wolf Spider released more albums, but
And like check out like Kingdom of Paranoia from Wolf Spider. It was like recorded in 1990 in Poland, and like everything, drumming, everything there is crazy.
yeah, but it came out on, it came out on the Under One Flag label, so I think it was like a UK label or something that released some like speed thrash metal in Europe.
I
Uh,
don't know for about that release. You need to write me up
yeah,
that
Wolf
one.
Spider, pretty funny name, right?
Wolf Spider.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
name of the
yeah,
band.
yeah.
Uh, okay. I was hearing it well.
Yeah, we're gonna
That's
give you
nice.
some
If
recommendations after
if you
that.
can get
Yeah,
bottle surfers, you can
please.
get a wolf spider. Even that's
Bottle
there are worse
surfers.
names.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that
there are
band.
worse names to pick from. Yeah. Regarding this guy you mentioned, Maru Maru. Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to get like popular outside of Poland because he actually hits nerve. When it comes to like the nostalgia we have. We grew up in the 90s. And early 2000s, but we were very much influenced by what happened like even like 10 years prior, and to the stories by our parents and everything, and like mm,
Oh,
oh, we
We
lost him.
lost
did we
him.
lose him?
Yeah, I
it
was
was a
like,
very interesting thing, like culturally and musically, why he got like very popular in here, trying to like replicate the sound, and the visual style of those years, because I think it's an
he did
aesthetic
it.
yeah, of
He's
as an
good.
aesthetic, yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting approach, because he managed to really capture this, so yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why when I was listening to your more clean parts, I was like, oh yeah, I think about that guy, but it doesn't sound like him. But I was thinking about that because he's from Poland. But anyway, I think he's doing a great job, and I really love those parts that are a little bit more progressive, and it reminds me a lot the band Vector. At the same time, I talked to you about Vector. I have unconditional love for the three albums they release. I think they are all three masterpieces, and it's such a shame they are not releasing anything. I talked with Eric Nelson, their lead guitar player, and he told me like a year ago that the album was approximately ready, but
Hmm.
I don't know why nothing is announced yet, but I think it will come eventually. And you
I
talk
mean,
about Blood Incantation. Absolute Elsewhere was my favorite album of 2024. It's last year. I had the chance to see the band live and they played all the thing. My God.
Mhm. Yeah, me too.
Me and Mike went to a show in Warsaw in April.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them every time I see them. It's a bigger club, you know. The first time
Yeah.
I saw them was in like a small club here in Warsaw, and recently, the most recent show that we went to was in like the biggest club that actually has like metal shows in it. You know, like the bigger than that, it would only be probably
An
like
arena.
a stadium or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But basically, it was just amazing, and it was absolutely packed, you know, with people, and the show was great, and the guys are great. So I
Yeah.
absolutely love them. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
and they
was
are
great.
playing everything. They are really down to earth to play everything that you hear, and they hired a guy to play all those fucked up sounds that are in the back, and it's like the backbone of the songs. It's the atmosphere, and you have some really cool atmosphere on your instrumental track called Voyager. We'll say in French, but in English they will say Voyager, like the band, Australian band. But I really like that instrumental track, and I was like, the atmosphere, love a little bit of more of that on the next record. I don't know if something it was just a one-shot deal, or maybe you think about incorporating a little bit more of these atmospheres in your future songs.
Well, we really like, you know, doing. Um, First of all, we like doing instrumental tracks. You know, we did one. We actually no, wait, we actually did three on the previous album. One of them was an intro
On
that
the
was
first album, yeah.
yeah,
There's
one of them
three on
was
the
an
first.
intro that was composed by our friend. But then we did two tracks, just instrumental tracks, and then on this one we have this instrumental. So yeah, I think we just like to do that, you know, to have an instrumental somewhere in the album. There's already a lot of space in the songs that are just purely instrumental, but to have a separate track, especially, you know, a track that's kind of simple, like in this case, because it's a very
Yeah.
simple track. It's just like it just has this progressive nature because it's a very simple idea that evolves throughout the song, you know, and the riff just keeps changing a little bit.
The riff
um
is killer. I really
yeah,
love that riff. I can get it out of my mind, actually.
yeah, me too. I had that same perspective, yeah. But basically we like to do, you know, interludes, and in the album, and I think that this track especially works as a closer to side A of the record, you know, because that's essentially how the side A of the album closes if you're listening on a cassette or vinyl, you know. And it for me also, it's something that I realized fairly recently, actually, you know, maybe a couple years ago, that when you have, you know, when you're listening on a cassette or vinyl, um like you have to be prepared when making a record. You have to be prepared to actually write two endings. I mean, there's the ending to the first
Oh
side, and
yeah.
then there's actually the final ending, you know. So it's like this, with this instrumental, you know, being an interlude, kind of closing the first part of the album, and, you know, being a serving as sort of a to be continued type of cliffhanger, you know, for
Well
the
thought.
second part, you know. So I think that's the main purpose of this. And I guess if you know how to compose such track into a record, you know, so that it serves its purpose, and then when you have an idea, I mean, it can be a simple idea, just like in this case, you can really make something cool out of it. And we hired our friend Krzysiek, Chris, who's a bass player for a band called Trojme. It's a hardcore punk band from here, from Poland. They actually did a tour in the US, so they're pretty popular right now. But he's a great synthesizer artist, and overall, he's just he's just a very very artistic guy. So working with him is always a pleasure. And when I asked him, like, we got this track, we want to do this like spacey kind of froggy synthesizer thing, it's just, I have this riff, here it is, do whatever you want, and he just sends us this, like, yeah, I just wrote something like that. It's simple, but it works perfectly.
Yeah, on
So
point.
and we had him on the previous record, and I think that this is something that's going to be probably a collaboration for longer, on the future records as well, to have him as a guest artist, on the next releases as well. I'm
Yeah,
thinking about it.
I'd love that. Totally. And I can't uh avoid to talk about the best freaking song of the album, the closing masterpiece, biological masterpiece, and a 10-minute song that is so appealing to me. So much diversity on this track. Uh, I'd love to hear you guys talking a little bit more in details about that really big track that closed this absolutely amazing album. Actually, when the last riff is closing up in fade out, usually I will push play again because I want to hear the first track. So it's just 40 minutes, but it's like addictive. You did it well.
I don't know. I don't even know what to say, man. It's just like,
I
just wow.
just to follow the what you said about this closing riff. I remember at one practice in our rec room, Mike came up on this riff, and we tried to incorporate it into some other song, I believe, at that time, but it didn't work out.
Yeah,
But it really was sounding like a riff that is supposed to close a song, or better close the album, because like we couldn't come up on anything before or after the riff, so we just thought that we will include it as a closing riff to our last track on the album. And the last track, like same with the first album, To Find Deliverance, Ex Machina,
Yep, long track too.
long track 2, we just thought that it would be cool to write a longer song to close the album. And yeah, like whenever we play the song, like, and this riff pops in, it's yeah, it's a great feeling playing it.
You play it live.
We played
We
it
al-
once on
yeah,
our release party like 2 months ago.
we
But
only
it's
Oh,
played
coming.
that once, and
Yeah, but it's coming. Yeah,
we need,
next year we're
yeah,
gonna play it more.
we need to
yeah.
practice it a little bit more. We only played it once so far, but it was pretty good, actually. I think we did a good job. With this song, we kind of had quite a few ideas for songs, and um we had this thing in mind that, yeah, we want to make a longer song, so it was intentional to make a longer song as the album closer. But we had a couple ideas, and we were not really sure exactly how to glue them together, but we managed, and I think it makes sense in the end. And we really, with this track, we kind of wanted to go like full on, proggy style, because there's this longer section where we just have this very simple and kind of repetitive, almost like krautrock kind of riff that just, where Piotr is doing some really cool bass parts that kind of sound like something Sean Malone would do. And then I'm going with the solo that's just, yeah, like a proggy kind of fusion solo, at least in some parts, I guess. And then we close it off with this thrashy, technical,
Heavy metal.
spacey, heavy metal kind of monster of a riff that just, I mean, like Przemek said, we kind of we did this riff, you know, we started playing it when we were like, man, I can't think of anything that would come after this riff, you know, like what's next? I mean, there's nothing else to say. Like
Next album.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yes.
so we put this at the end, and that's how the album closes, and we thought that it would be a perfect way to close the record, you know.
Like funny thing,
It is.
when Absolute Elsewhere came out, this album ends with not like a similar riff, but the
Yeah.
concept is similar.
Yeah.
That you've got
A
this
fade
riff and
out.
it's
Fucking
going and
great
going.
riff.
Yeah, I remember
I love
we
that.
had this part written already. Like
Recorded.
I mean, yeah, I think it was actually even recorded. It was definitely there, you know, before Absolute Elsewhere came out, and then you know the Absolute Elsewhere drops, and I'm listening to the record, and I hear this ending riff, and I'm like, holy shit, no way. we're so we're so fucked, man.
Fine,
Uh,
it's not the same,
Yeah,
but
it's not the same, you know.
the
It's
general
obviously,
idea is likely.
but it's a relatively, you know, it's something like you mentioned Dark Side from Gua, you know, that riff previously when we were talking about drummers. So that riff, it has some of that kind of black metal. There's like a blast beat in there with these,
Yeah.
you know, with this like tremolo minor chords, you know, it has some black metalish kind of thing into it, and so does the Blood Incantation ending part to Absolute Elsewhere. So yeah, I mean, it's not something that's very unusual, I would say.
and
But it's a
I,
fucking banger, man. Yeah.
I can tell you like an inside story when it comes to the intro itself to the song. Our guy Guillaume, who's from France, so we're kind of familiar with some French names or French behaviors. uh,
Yes,
he's
for
also
sure.
our friend, and like we can call him like a fourth member of the band. He's our merch guy, and I used to live with him like in one apartment, and I would play. Whenever we compose a song live in a rec room, like all three of us together, we record it on our phone or whatever. And I remember once I came home from rehearsal and I played it to him, but we were really we were having uh, bad time with like playing the intro to the song, which was supposed to be just like do 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 and like on and on, and we kept on like repeating it, like the riff itself. So like we played the riff, but then there was like silence, and then again, you know, counting, and again we played the riff, and he came up with an idea to maybe to just really like make an intro out of it, like the concept that you like play a riff, and each time after a pause you play more of that riff, and then eventually the riff comes out in a full form. So yeah, funny story.
Yeah,
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 I
especially
guess he thought it was intentional, but it was actually a mistake, and we just kept repeating the song. But he
Yeah.
thought that it was how the song started, and he was like, "Guys, you should start the song that way." And we were like, "That's actually not a bad idea." Yeah.
yeah. And there's this also there's this song called Bitor on Flight by Night, record by Rush. I think it's their
Yeah.
second album. Yeah, and there is
Yeah.
this
Second.
motive that you know that you have a riff that you know keeps on going, a couple of circles, but each time it's a little bit shorter and different. And I had always wanted to try to do something similar, you know. So this is you have this, and
Oh
also
wow.
I think on the first album of Vendetta, it's a German thrash metal band. There was also something similar again, you know. So like people had done this before already, yeah, but you know a little bit differently. We all just like I said before, we all get inspired by this and that, and then you have our merch guy, you know, who's like, yeah, like guys, try to do it like that, and again, you get inspired by your friends as well, yeah. So that's yeah, that's a great story, and that's how you know we also immortalize our friends in the songs in a sense. Yeah, just like the guy with the synths and everybody else actually.
That's great. But every single artist that has lived has been inspired by someone, and I think it's just to take those ideas, inspiration, and make it your own.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the beauty of music. And
Don't
guys,
mimic them. Yeah, but
yeah,
inspire yourself.
mimic
Yeah.
is not nice, except if you're a cover band. That's okay.
Yeah.
Uh, Guys, I'm going to play hockey in like 25 minutes. So I see the time flying by. And I have at least one last question. What the future holds in the next 2-3 years for Species, songwriting, touring, anything that is planned or ambitions are to realize.
Well, I can tell you that one of the I think it's already two of the Voyager probes have escaped. The known part of our solar
It
system.
did.
They're exploring a little bit further. So as they are going further down the road of infinite space, there's gonna be more inspiration for us also to write music. So I'm gonna leave you with that.
Nice.
Yeah,
Anything else?
we
Yeah.
already started working on some new stuff. Basically, this time of the year would usually be the time for us to kind of sit back, relax and take some time off, but also to think a little bit about just spend some time not only with the people, but also, for me at least, with the instrument, to actually think about new songs, right? And to concentrate not on practicing, but on like what we already have written, but on just coming up with new ideas. And we would probably just come back next year to the practice space with some new riffs, with some new ideas, and see what we can do with them. So that's one thing. And then when it comes to shows, we have some plans already for the next year. Also with the promotion for this record, that's been very, very extensive, I think. And we've received a lot of really great reviews. We've done quite some interviews with people from all over the world, pretty much. So we're really hoping to bring this music to to anyone who enjoys it, to be able to share it live, so that people who like the record can experience it, because we absolutely love to do that, to share this stuff with the listeners, and to just have fun together, because that's
Anywhere.
so yeah.
That's the ultimate goal when you write piece of music, and to play them in front of people that are actually enthusiasts listening to them and moving, and you're like, oh shit, that's my song, and they are actually banging and loving it, and some of them are singing. So that's probably the best gift you can receive from a
Yeah,
crowd.
like
Definitely.
we recently played this in Wrocław here, and when we're on the stage, like a couple songs into the set, and I hear some guy, I think there was some guy who just like came to the show. I don't know if he was late or something, and he's like asking like his friend or something, hey, have they played Malfunction yet? Or like, have they played Terror Unknown yet? And I'm hearing this, and I'm like, yeah, this guy's hype, It's
He,
so
he knows
cool.
he knows the
I'm hyped.
songs.
Like, yeah, he's even more hyped than I am, just to be able to play this stuff live, So that's
And we're
that's
always
cool.
pretty pumped to play, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It's just for us, it's like huge thing always whenever we're playing. So it's awesome, and to see that people have such reactions, and they have that they have their favorite songs that they want to hear. Like, we can't play every song, unfortunately, but
No, that's
yeah,
always the
awesome.
heart the hard thing to do to choose a set list, and you just have 2 albums. Imagine when you will have 4 or 5 albums.
We're already
that's gonna
thinking
be
about that. Yeah.
It's getting crazy and a real struggle. Hey guys, thank you for all that time you have been taken with me to talk about the new album Changeling. That's the band Species, and really love your different influences and our how like nerds, music nerds you are as me. So is
Oh,
it,
yeah.
we could go on for like 2 hours and it will
Probably
be
even more.
no
Easily.
problem,
Yeah.
easily, yeah. And so thank you so much for that. And if you want to say just a last thing as a conclusion for the fans who are maybe still listening to that.
Yeah, I can like say stay stay angry, get evil all the time, but somebody had already said this in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like I can only say that metal will never ever die. I believe like music is better than ever. The underground is just like keep getting bigger and bigger, and I only encourage everybody to just like look deeper, search harder, and you will find amazing artists, great music, and there's gonna be
Hmm.
more and more of that. Yeah, so like great times for music are here, despite whatever the industry is saying that despite people being afraid of AI, whatever great musicians are here. Yeah, so like just like open up your ears, open up your heads, listen to as much music as you can because it's here. Just like look close.
Totally. If
Yeah.
you
Buy the
think
records, support the bands, go to shows, share the
buy
music,
merch,
buy merch. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Just
Yeah,
keep the underground alive.
and
And
never fucking relax.
yeah,
I
yeah,
have to say
Yeah,
this.
yeah. That's the one. Yeah,
we
exactly.
will relax when we will be dead.
Exactly.
Such a
Exactly.
pleasure. Let's keep in touch, guys. And
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, we will. It was super fun.
Great
It
talking
was
to
like a
you.
blast. Time flew
thank
like
you.
crazy, man.
Likewise, man. Till the next time.
Yeah.
All right.
Enjoy your hockey, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to keep that guy in shape.
Yeah. I know what
Sure.
you're talking about. Working out is like super important. So
Yeah,
keep on
totally.
pushing, man.
For everything, physical, for the
Oh yeah,
mental, and
yeah.
yeah,
Mental even more so, I think. Yeah. So yeah.
totally
So
the
enjoy yourself,
balance.
man.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you. See you next time.
Cheers.
Cheers, man.
Take care. All the
Bye.
best.
You too.